What's up, everyone, and welcome to Project XTalk, an Xbox podcast, episode number 185, presented by Save the Game Media. I'm your host, Kevin, and on today's episode, we're talking all about our hopes, our dreams, and our expectations for the upcoming Xbox showcase, plus a few other tidbits of news. But before we get to all that and more, I gotta introduce my co-host, JamPackSam. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. I was just over with the Game Explain crew doing a little breakdown of the state of play stuff, and I know you guys did one as well here. But you can feel the hype around the gaming season start to come, and then all the hopes and dreams get crushed. But we recover very quickly, and yeah, man, just feeling good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I did go into the state of play, pretty excited. It's like the kickoff to showcase season.
Hmm.
I want to say, like, obviously, we're going to do one for the Xbox showcase. I think some other people, I'm tentatively available, might do one for Summer Game Fest next week. And then there's a whole bunch of other showcases like Day of the Devs. Devolver is one like 8 o'clock at night. I don't know what's
Yeah.
going on with that. But yeah, we're gonna have a bunch of live reacts coming at you. It's an exciting time of the year for, especially if you're like in the game space.
Yeah, it really is. I remember, not to drag out the intro, but when I was in college and I was really starting to like get into the content creation video game coverage thing, I remember just being up until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning looking at trailers. Like Devolver would do
Hmm.
4 hour post shows with the breakdowns, IGN coverage. It's just fun. Like this is the meat and potatoes of, like, I love the video game industry, not the like social media reactionary stuff, like the
Hmm.
real meat of it. That's what I love about this time of year.
Yeah, I remember because I've been watching. Obviously, we all watched it. We all grew up watching E3, whether it was on like
Yeah, man.
G4 or whatever.
Spike
And then
TV.
Spike TV. You'd have those. I remember like when the Xbox One got revealed, like Xbox, my friend, it's like, oh, what's PlayStation gonna do? And then everyone was crapping on the Xbox. I was like, I thought
Yeah.
Xbox Showcase was pretty good still. I don't know what's going on, guys. But it's always been had that fun mentality to see like who's got the better showcase and then compare them and be excited for games that are coming, and then games that might get canceled like Scalebound. I was really hyped for Scalebound, but
Yeah, RIP, RIP.
RIP and peace, Scalebound. But this is Project X Talk. We are live every Thursday right here on youtube.com/save the game media. If you can't catch us live, we post every Friday morning on your favorite audio platform of choice. While you're over there, make sure to drop us that 5-star review, whether it's Apple, Spotify. It does help us in the algorithm. If you want to support us even further, get early audio access to all Save the Game Media content and exclusive bonus content, head over to patreon.com/save the game media. Choose the tier that's right for you, like our current Patreon supporters. So thank you to Fabulous Brianna, Brianna's mom, Brianna's brother, Lindsay, Nikolai at Night, Cypher Primus, Brendan Myers, Marcus O'Neill, Lillian, Mimi J, David Hotright, Dave Harp, the Xbox Expansion Pass, Alpaca Tom, Lee Navarro, and Silkin It. Thank you all for your support. We appreciate each and every one of you. And if you're not over on Patreon, remember, if you're interested, you get a 7-day free trial. So go check that out. Sam, housekeeping's out of the way. So why don't we jump right into what have you been playing this week, my friend?
I will have the audience know that in our notes for the show, I wrote verbatim Diablo 4 till my eyes bleed. Which is what I've been doing over the course of the past couple of days. We had a out of town wedding to go to last weekend, so I was traveling a lot, just hour here,
Mhm.
hour there, driving back and forth. But when we weren't doing that, it was the grind. Like, I am back in that mindset, and it has been a really good time. I know that last week I expressed that I was loving Diablo 4, but I also had no idea when some of these things were added and what mechanics were actually new. At this
Mhm.
point, I don't care. I'm just having a great time. Like, it's just a really, really fun time. So I am level 54 in the battle pass. So I'm
Wow.
grinding on through that thing. And my fiance is playing it too. We're doing couch co-op, but it's just a fantastic time. I am loving every minute of it.
I was gonna say your Discord tells me you're playing it right now. It's honestly I can't see your hands, so it's honestly
She is in the other
amazing.
room. She is in the other room grinding Diablo. And after we finish everything here and do the post show, I'm also going to go start grinding Diablo. So this is a necromancer household right now.
Ooh, both necros, huh?
Yep, both necros indeed.
Yeah. I just gotta say, I gotta set the record here. All right. I've been a barbarian guy since Diablo 1, barbarian through and through, and I see a lot of people crapping on barbarians in Diablo 4. That's all I'm saying. All right.
That
But
was
they're
that
good.
was my class when I finished the game for the first time. So I also enjoyed a barb as well. And then I will say the other thing that I played outside of Diablo 4 is probably about 4 or 5 hours of X Defiant, the
Ooh.
Ubisoft first person shooter. And
Because I saw it had like 8 million players already or something.
it has hit a very high milestone. I'm not sure what the player count is off the bat, but it seems like it's doing better than most Ubisoft games typically do when they launch. And if you have played any of the betas over the course of the last 2 to 3 years, you know exactly what to expect from the game now that it's out. It is the game that I played last June, but I'm going to be playing it this June. And either way, I'm just happy that it's out. So there's a double XP weekend again this weekend, so I'll probably play more of that. But really good time there too.
Now, is X Defiant? It's so hard to keep up with these free to play shooters. Is X Defiant more Call of Duty or is it more like class based?
So it is a little blend of both. I would say that it's probably like 60% old school Call of Duty and then 40% class based stuff. But the class based is more like abilities. Like you can have one with like this energy shield that blocks bullets, or you can have one that's an instant heal, or you can have one that's more of like a firebomb situation. And they're all based off of different division, or excuse me, Ubisoft titles like The Division, like Far Cry. So it ties
Oh,
into different things across the
that's
Ubisoft
kind of
lineup really
cool,
well.
actually.
Yeah, like the stealth class is the is Splinter Cell. I forget what it starts with an E, but Echelon I think is what it is.
Mhm.
So there's like a Splinter Cell stealth class, and it does it really well. The maps are based off of other Ubisoft properties too, so it's kind of like a Astrobot style first person shooter where it's got like the history of Ubisoft scattered throughout in a nice, kind little way. So I really enjoy it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's way cooler than I expected it to be. It's one of those games I see it and I'm like, I don't know anyone actually playing it, and because I didn't know, I knew you were making coverage on it. I didn't know if you would actually, because I haven't seen you play. I've only seen you play Diablo 4. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, a whole lot more Diablo 4, but X Defiant's really good. If you're playing Call of Duty right now, then it's going to be hard to get you away to play X Defiant because the new season of COD just launched. And I feel like they are kind of like vying for the same user base.
Hmm.
But I always say, like, it's a free to play game. You don't have to take my word for it being good. It's a 30 gigabyte roughly download. So it's not like 150 gigs or anything. So it's worth giving a shot.
How are the free to play? Obviously, microtransaction, battle pass, I assume.
Yeah, so you've got the right now we're in season 0 that comes with I believe a 50 tier battle pass if you want to go in for it, which is like the standard $10 I think, and you can earn the currency to earn it most of the way, if not all the way to the next battle pass. And then the microtransactions are all cosmetic, so there's nothing that's like gross or weird in there. It is one of those things though where I look at it and I'm like, who's buying this like
Hmm.
this cosmetic pack for this brand new unproven X Defiant game that's out there? Like the battle pass I get, that's kind of like
Yeah.
a standard, but like the skins and stuff I just don't know who's going all out on week 1 to kind of like collect them all, but I'm sure you have the whales out there.
Hmm. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad that it didn't come out and immediately die.
Yeah,
I think it did hit a few million players at least. I know from what I saw. So that's awesome. I have been playing. I don't know if you would describe this as bad games, but I've been playing some games and I'm like, why am I doing this? So I
mm,
finished Sakura Wars, which I started last week and I mentioned, and I it's not a bad game, but I'm gonna say something. All right, everyone that has been listening knows my gaming tastes. This game from Sega might be too Japanese for me.
I just googled it and I went to images and I feel like I need to clear my browser history. I can't tell you why, but I just feel like I do.
No, no, you're right. So 90% of like there's 8 chapters and the last 2 are just combat focused. So like the first 6 chapters, 90% of the game you will spend running between like rooms and locations and just chatting with characters, choosing some dialogue options to improve your bond level with them. And then you'll get a nice little 5-10 minute combat section in your mech at the end. I was like, these combat sections are really fun. Like, I like this part of the game. The other part, dragging a lot.
Ugh.
But once you build your trust level, you get these. This is probably what you saw. You get these really awkward one-on-one dates with your cast, and they're very weird. Like you do things like you move a cursor around their body and like comment on parts of it, like your hair looks so good and you can't skip this. Like I'm sitting here, I was like, I don't like this part of the game. I don't want to do this part of the game.
Yeah, I
It
don't
was
like that.
so uncomfortable and they go on way too long. Like they get shorter throughout the game. I think they realize like, hey, maybe that first one was like 15 minutes long of you just staring. And then they keep moving the character closer and closer to you until she's like blushing a lot and like sparkles. I'm like, oh my God, man. I was like, I felt very uncomfortable, especially because one of the characters is a 13-year-old girl.
Hard pass on that one.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that I would not want to
Yeah.
experience that section of the gameplay. Also
Yeah.
sounds like a really good new Stellar Blade mode potentially as an addition or a DLC. Sounds like there's some potential there.
Listen, there are romance options. I chose to romance someone that wasn't a child in the
Oh,
game.
you're doing
So
better than most celebrities these days. So congratulations.
yeah,
Good for
I'll
you.
take my medal. All right, but
Yeah.
it's me putting the medal on me.
Yeah. No diss tracks coming your way. Kevin's safe.
Yeah, yeah. Kendrick, where you at? Multiverses is the other game I've been playing, and
Yes.
this game I probably have more to say on it. This game is not very good. It's not often a game is in beta for a year and then comes out way worse than the
That's
beta.
impressive.
So this game is completely broken on Xbox right now. It's unplayable. You will get constant frame rate drops into the 20s, constant lag. Like you cannot play this game. And at first I thought it was me. Like I was getting pretty annoyed. Then I went online, Twitter, Reddit, everyone's talking Xbox doesn't work, Xbox doesn't work. And I'm like, okay, great. It's not just me. I'll download it on my PlayStation. PlayStation, much better like connectivity experience, except for a few disconnects, but like the game is playable. I don't go in, I don't get constant freezing and frame drops. They did, however, make the game a lot less fun to play. Like they made it floatier and they made it slower, which are two things I don't really like in my fighting games, especially platform fighters.
Yeah.
If I had to describe it for anyone out there, Super Smash Brothers Brawl, the game that made me sell my Nintendo Wii because I hated it so much and stop playing Nintendo until the Switch came out for a decade. That is what I would describe this game as the gameplay feel. The hits still have no impact. The movement still feels terrible. There's still no good ranking. Like, I don't even think ranks in the game, but there's no skill based matchmaking. Like, you're either going to get stomped or you're going to stomp people. Like, I was on a 16 win streak because the other players was like, you even know how to play the game? Like, are you even moving your characters? So there's really no consistency in like the challenge you're going to get on here. And then the currencies. I don't know who designed this game, but they were like, what if instead of 2 currencies, we had 4 currencies? And one of them, hear me out, completely worthless. Can't do anything with it. But that's the one we're going to give you the most of.
So you can't do anything with it at all.
You unlock perks with it. I have 20,000 perk points. There's about, I don't know, 15 perks. And I've only played like 2 hours, right? So
Yeah.
like I can unlock every perk in the game for my character. And then I'll just have nothing to do with the perk points. And I'm just like, this doesn't make any sense. Meanwhile, to unlock characters, they've now added character currency, and you have to get at least 3,000 to unlock any character. Where in the beta, it was like some characters are 1,000, other characters are 2,000. It was like, it wasn't this currency, but it was a more varied and like, the skins are still stupid expensive, like $20 a skin, which apparently is normal. I think that's egregious, but
I also agree that it's number 1 normal, number 2 gross.
Yeah. This Batman skin's really cool. Let me go to the store. Like,
Yeah.
that's a third of a game.
Yeah, that's a whole lot there. It's a bummer that Multiverses has come out in the state that it has after, like you said, a year. And the one story that I have about Multiverses, I haven't played it personally, so I can't speak to it. But and I sound like I'm lying when I say this, but it actually happened. I was in a GameStop loitering around, doing as you do, waiting to buy something or whatever. And so a father came in and he said, "Hey, I need to buy an Xbox controller." And so the person started helping them or whatever. And he was like, "Yeah, Multiverses is going offline. So my kids need to play with each other because they can't play with other people." So he was going to keep it installed on his system so that they could do local co-op.
Oh no.
And so whenever Multiverses was announced to be coming back, immediately I think back to that dude and I'm like, oh, sick. His kids are going to be able to play Multiverses again. And now I hear that it runs at 20 FPS and it's not because it's cinematic. It's because it's broken. So that's a bummer to hear.
You know what else would be a bummer for his kids when they log on to play together offline and see that for some reason you can't use every character offline. You have to grind and buy all the characters.
That is dumb.
Yeah, it's not a good system. So like unless you're really putting the time and effort in, like you will have like I have I think 3 4 characters maybe, and one was Jason from the because I was in the beta, I got him free. One was Tom and Jerry, which I unlocked during the beta. And then the other 2 you start with Shaggy and Wonder Woman. Every other character in this game is locked, and I'm like I just it's not fun unless you spend money.
Yeah, yeah. But can you earn every character, or do you have to
You
buy
can, it'll
something?
take forever. Like you have to get through at least 3,000 of that fighter currency. And after, like I said, 2.5 hours of playing, I don't have anywhere near enough to buy a fighter yet.
That sucks. Yeah, that's rough. I don't know. Warner Brothers, like, for every Harry Potter, it's just like, what are we doing here? You know, like there's another horrible disaster burning over here in the corner. It's crazy.
I would have rather them put the game out at like 40, $50 and just been like, here you go, like buy it. We're gonna get rid of most of the like we'll keep some skins, but like just have a Smash Brothers type
I agree.
experience.
Yeah, I think that if they had dropped this game, and I don't know how much content's in the game, so I'm just speculating here, but like Multiverses, $30 game, still the same level of microtransactions, but all the characters are like easily earnable or whatever. Then I feel like that's an instant sell for people like that dude at GameStop with his kids that are like, oh yeah, Warner Brothers fighting game, yeah, sure, why not? Makes
Yeah.
sense.
So I'm pretty disappointed with that. Yeah, I would say 1H1D, put it on Game Pass already. It's free to play.
Yeah.
You don't need Game Pass. But yeah, I'm pretty disappointed with the game. I'll keep checking it out for a little bit, but I can't see myself sticking with it. And from what I've seen, the community opinion is very much in line with mine, where they're not happy with the changes that Player First Games has made, and unless they redirect, I can see this game's player count dwindling very quickly.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think that a game like this, I feel like the first impression is so important in today's day and age, because if a game comes out and it sucks at launch, like Halo Infinite, you are going to have people
Mhm.
that think that it's still the game that it was in 2021, when in reality, like it's a totally different experience in 2024. Like, can Multiverses overcome that? Oh, it's egregious microtransactions and doesn't play well kind of mentality.
If they act quick enough while they're still like if they patch a lot of things in the next week or two, I think that the game could probably be at least a little bit successful. My worry is like they're not going to get it out that fast, and that we're going to see something where like I think of Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, where the first one, even though I liked it, was very bare bones, didn't have voice acting at launch, missing a lot of like it wasn't it wasn't the game you pay $40 for, right? Like
Yeah.
it wasn't a very good experience for a lot of players. So then when the second one came out, you already had that bad taste from the first one in your mouth, where the second one is a really good platform fighter. Like it has a really good campaign, roguelike story mode. Like they made a good game there. Nobody will play it because the first one they were like that game was a scam.
Yeah. Yeah. It's unfortunate, man.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks. Really disappointed with that, but it is what it is. We'll see what happens with Multiverses. Ghostly March. I didn't like the beta, so now I'm going to try it now. And like I said, my first impression was Xbox is broken. I'm going to uninstall it until I remembered they had cross progression. So I just went to my PS5, which I shouldn't have to do that. I should be able to play where I want to play, but it was a workaround.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
All right, Sam, let's continue on. We have a few bits of news to talk about. Nothing major before we get into our Xbox Showcase predictions, but I do want to just touch on these. So, Xbox has apparently partnered with Rocksteady co-founders. This is being reported that the developer 100 Star, which was founded by Rocksteady co-founders, I keep wanting to say Rockstar, Rocksteady co-founders Jamie Walker and Sefton Hill, they apparently have reached an agreement on a new single-player action adventure game that Xbox Game Studios will reportedly finance. I'm sure this project is years away, but Sam, are you excited at all? I know it's kind of hard press release to get excited for.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I am inherently excited about these companies and these individuals that have the prestige and the history. But we talked about it a couple of weeks ago, my perspective on this kind of thing, where it's like, I feel like I can't trust new big game that's quadruple A coming out from people that also made big famous quadruple A game, and then like we don't know what any of this stuff is. So
Mhm.
I'm just holding hope, and I will remain cautiously optimistic. And if it doesn't pan out to be something that we would want it to be, then that's okay. I think that all of these things should be taken with a grain of salt, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited. Does this do anything for you? How are you feeling about it?
The fact that the report says new single player action adventure game does get me excited. Just knowing what the previous games that the Rocksteady has made, even though this isn't Rocksteady, it's the co-founders of that studio. So obviously they had the vision for Rocksteady when they set it up. They understand what kind of games players were looking for from that studio, which maybe they've shifted away from now. But is 100 Star trying to recapture the magic that Rocksteady had? I don't know, but it is something like I'm going to keep an eye on it. I don't expect it to be this generation, even. Like, I think this is clearly a game for the future, for the next Xbox console. I'm not sure if this is gonna be an exclusive or like Xbox Game Studios is we're gonna have these conversations for forever going forward, right? Like Xbox Game Studios is apparently financing this game. Does that mean it's an Xbox exclusive, or does it mean it's a timed exclusive? Will it eventually go to other platforms? Especially being that single player narrative action adventure kind of game that it's apparently being reported to be. I saw a I don't know. It wasn't a report, but a tweet from Jez Corden earlier was like Xbox is still going to have exclusives, but like they're okay putting their games elsewhere once they've kind of maxed out their earning potential.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to the thing of everything is going to be approached on a case by case basis. And I personally think that when I read this, I mean, if you are paying the bill, it seems like you would be the one to reap the benefits, at least initially. So I would imagine that Xbox is straddling not wanting to look like the bad guy, because right now PlayStation can afford to look like the bad guy in certain situations. Of like with the Marvel Rivals announcement that was on the State of Play live stream,
Hmm.
exclusive Spider-Man outfit. Shocker to every PlayStation 5 player that you're getting a Spider-Man cosmetic. But like
Hmm.
they know that that's expected from PlayStation. They're going to foot the bill on that. And then you're going to have a little nice tidbit of content. And same thing with any of the other games that they've got. Final Fantasy is a good example that comes to mind. So Xbox can also play that game, but they definitely don't want to lock it down in perpetuity, because then they run the risk of looking like they're a big evil corporation trying to hold back a game.
Hmm.
And whether they are or not to be seen. I do have a question for you though.
Sure.
What is a AAA game for you in 2024? Like what is the definition of that when they say they're making
Ooh.
a AAA game potentially?
Budget, really. I think
Okay.
when I hear the A's, it just means how much money they're spending on it. Like AAA, I think anything probably over $100 million is probably a AAA game for me.
Mm.
Although I think of games where like Remedy make AAA quality games on a double A budget, I would say. Something like Alan Wake 2, something like Control, which was $25 million, I believe. Like those aren't AAA budgets for me, but they have the same quality. And there are developers that I think can do that really well. But there are also developers that I think spend way too much money on games like Spider-Man 2 costing $300 million, The Last of Us Part 2 costing 230 million or whatever it costs. Like I think those budgets are a little gross, and I don't particularly think that's necessary to spend that much to make a great game. But I kind of just look at it as budget. I don't really concern myself with the A's as much. In the chat we got Skull and Bones as a quad A game, right?
Oh yeah, 100% definitely quad. That's how much they screamed when they finally released that thing to get it out the door whenever they saw how much money they were going to lose on it over the years. But yeah, I was just curious because all of these reports come out of like new AAA game coming from whoever, and it's like, what does
Hmm.
that mean? Like I probably align myself with you where it's a big budget thing, but games are expensive. So you're like, super expensive games coming at some point in the future because we have to pay people to make it. So it's a weird statement overall, but one that we can't get away from because it's so fundamental these days anyway.
It's like we had that what's an indie game discussion last year around the
Yeah.
game awards when Dave the Diver was nominated. I was like,
Mhm.
it's not an indie game though. It's the opposite of that discussion. But Terribo writes in off this story. He says, there's been some good Xbox news lately, such as Xbox reportedly working with 100 Star on a new AAA game, the creation of a new AAA studio in Poland from Blizzard, and Ninja Theory's new game being greenlit. Yet these narratives don't seem to be talked about as much. Do you think there's an overcrying of Xbox problems, and why?
I think that it's difficult because for me personally, there's always potential, but I feel like this generation across the board has not necessarily been a letdown, but it hasn't quite hit that level that we might have been expecting. Like even on the PlayStation side, God of War Ragnarok was more God of War. Not that it was a bad game, but it didn't like shake the earth. Spider-Man 2, same kind of thing. Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth, same kind of thing. Where like it's good. These are great
Mm-hmm.
games. Don't get me wrong, but they're not like Final Fantasy 7 remake, earth shattering. This is like a moment in gaming history kind of stuff. Um, and on the Xbox side of things, I think that a lot of the same situation has occurred. Halo Infinite, hype for a new Halo game, didn't pan out to be like what we had really wanted and hoped for, even though it's a great game.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing for Starfield, same thing for Forza Motorsport. And so I think that right now it's almost like we've been kind of like boy who cried wolf. At least I feel like I have sometimes where there's all this hype. And then I get excited because the hype machine starts getting to me, and then the thing comes out, and I'm like, well, it's good, but it's good. It's just not like killing it right now. So I'm excited about all of these things, but I think people need to see the proof in the pudding of like, okay, cool. Ninja Theory killed it with how good Hellblade 2 looks, but like, what is that next game?
Mm-hmm.
And these new studios are cropping up and these partnerships are coming, but like, okay, what is the gameplay going to be? Like, is it going to be something that's brand new, or is it going to be something that's like another fine 7 or 8? And time will tell, I guess, is where I'm at with it. What about you? Is it too big of a deal out of Xbox's problems?
I think Xbox certainly has problems, which we've discussed at length in previous shows. So I do think there is an overreaction from a lot of the gaming community about how big Xbox's problems really are, what certain decisions they make actually mean. Is Xbox dead? I don't buy into that narrative. Like, I really do think there is that overcrying in those circles. But it's interesting you bring up like this generation hasn't exactly panned out the way a lot of us have thought. And I think we see that kind of in twofold, where you look at the PlayStation side and they have sequel-itis, if you want to call it that, right? Like
Mhm.
they only, or as you mentioned, God of War Ragnarok, Spider-Man 2, like they're putting out sequel after sequel and they're being well received. But then you get to by the critics and players, but like there is a good amount of players that are like, okay, but where's the new stuff, PlayStation? Like, we want new stuff. And then you look at Xbox, who their legacy IPs like Halo aren't hitting like they used to. And then their new IPs, they're really struggling to establish as footholds in the gaming community. Like Starfield, while I think is amazing, I don't know if that is like this is going to be a pillar franchise going forward for the next 20 years, like Elder Scrolls is, right? I don't know if Clockwork Revolution comes out and it's like, wow, this is an amazing game. Like we want a Clockwork Revolution 2. Does the new Fable reboot come out and revitalize that franchise? Like Xbox just has so many questions where they're trying to tackle things from a legacy IP with things like Perfect Dark, even like that's in limbo. We don't know what's going on with that, but then also balance it with new IPs that they hope players will latch on to. They'll subscribe to Game Pass for, they'll get Xbox consoles for, or play it on PC or whatever. And those haven't really hit the heights that maybe some were expecting after all the acquisitions.
Yeah, and I think that's a problem that is experienced kind of across the board with everybody but Nintendo because they're immune to normal conversation. But like PlayStation, again, coming straight off of the state of play, you can tell they are clearly trying to redefine what their brand is and build those new IP for the next 20 years because we're coming off of a 20-year period where we've all grown up around these games and these pillar franchises. But now there's a new generation of gamers coming up that need to be shown why they need a one box over the other or need to
Mhm.
have an account over the other, however you play your games. They've got to redefine what these games are. And so spending 12 minutes on Concord for the state of play shows that they want that to be like a thing you play that is their version of Overwatch or whatever they want to build it into. Um, And for Xbox, I think they're still kind of floundering around trying to find out what those new things are. And they're throwing a ton of stuff out there that are all good ideas. But the question is, like, what sticks? Was it going to be a Redfall? Was it going to be Starfield? Was it going to be XYZ? Like, name your game. And some of them are going to launch and flop, and some of them might take off and be pretty good over time. But yeah, we're in a really weird redefinition period, I guess, a restructuring right now.
I think the perfect example of what you're talking about is Astrobot, where they're like, okay, had a good VR game on the last generation. Let's give you a nice tech demo, a few hour experience off when the PS5 will bundle it in, show everyone the DualSense features. People loved it. So then they're like, oh, hey, people like this Astrobot character. Let's give him a full blown game, which apparently has over 80 levels. I'm seeing all these reports. I think it looks phenomenal. I can't wait to play it. But to me, like, when I saw that Astrobot trailer, I was like, this is Mario energy. Not saying like Astrobot and Mario were the same level, but clearly PlayStation sees like, hey, we need to appeal to the Mario crowd. Let's make a character like that. We don't currently have like Ratchet and Clank, as much as I love, that's a completely different audience than the Mario audience. I don't think bringing back even something like Sly Cooper would bring in the Mario. Like those are different sort of platformers, but Astrobot has that Mario energy.
Yeah, and even then, like, we talk about Sly Cooper and Jack and Daxter and all of these like legacy IP that we've grown up on, but no one knows who those people are, those characters are that
Mhm.
are, below our age. Like, people are growing out of that recognition. And so you've got to reestablish, which brings us to the topic of today's show. Bring back Banjo. Like, it is time to compete with Astrobot and with Mario and bring the king back, the bear and the bird, get them back in action. It's time to get off the bench. Let's
Yeah.
go, Phil. What are we doing?
Yeah, I like what you're saying. I like what you're saying.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Adams 2024. Let's go. Come on, bring it. Let's do it.
Ghostly March Astrobot does nothing for me as a Mario fan. Yeah, but like 3D platformers are better than Mario's more of a 2D guy personally, and
It's a
I don't
bold
really like.
take. Dang.
Yeah, I'm just saying Mario 3D games are worse than his 2D games, and I don't really like 2D platformers that much.
I, as a Galaxy fan, am offended. My sir, I gotta disagree with that one. Hot
Mario
take.
64 sucks.
Well, okay, except for the little nose pulling thing, that was fun on the DS with the stylus. That was a good
Yeah.
time.
All
Yeah.
right, all right. All right, let's keep it rolling here. Black Ops 6 is apparently coming to last gen.
Oh
So,
gosh.
Black Ops 6 officially announced last week and confirmed for day one Game Pass this week. However, it appears the latest Call of Duty installment will also be heading to last gen consoles, with retailers like GameStop taking orders for the PS4 version. Sam, why won't they just let it go?
I mean, because people haven't bought the new thing, like that's one reason why. It comes down to money. Like if you have half of PlayStation players not having upgraded to a PS5, I would assume that a ton of Xbox players that are on, the Xbox ecosystem are also not upgrading because the Xbox One X is still playing these mainstream games. It makes sense financially, but it's like no matter how good the next generation version of this game is going to look, it will inevitably, to some degree, still be held back by the fact that it has a last gen port, whatever that holdback might be, whether it's technically or if it's something that's like, we would love to do something on a grander scale for the story, but we're not because it's not possible on that hardware. I just feel like it's time to let it go. I mean, we're talking about a console or a set of consoles that came out in 2013. It is going to be 11 years old by the time this new Call of Duty is out, and we're still putting out games for it. That is crazy.
I'm with you. What I found interesting was I couldn't find any confirmation if it was getting an Xbox One version. I just saw everyone talk about the PS4 version. So
Yeah.
I don't know if Xbox has made the decision like nobody bought our last gen console. Like we're gonna try to get them to buy the new one, or they can cloud stream it onto their Xbox One because that's a feature for Series X games, right? Although
Yeah.
it's an Activision game, so they actually don't have the cloud rights to that. I don't know how that would work.
Yeah, which
Um,
that's a disaster in and of itself. We could talk about maybe that's a post show topic at some point. This cloud Ubisoft.
what's Ubisoft doing? I feel like nothing.
Yeah, I have absolutely no idea what Ubisoft is doing with those rights. I think they're like putting them out you can get them on Uplay or like Ubisoft Plus or something like that. Their subscription service has Activision games. That news came out this week, I think. But yeah, that would be very shocking if they put out a PS4 version but not an Xbox One version. So I am assuming, I'm operating under the assumption that there is an Xbox One version out there. If they're not, that is a huge missed opportunity in my opinion.
Yeah, I can see it. See, here's the like when I think about it, if they market, which they are, I've seen people say there's like ads that Black Ops 6 coming to Game Pass, like when you boot up Call of Duty across all the platforms now.
Mm.
So if you're on your PS4 and you boot that up and you see that and you're like, Game Pass, like like should I get an Xbox? Like, is that a conversation players are actually going to have? Like, I've had the PS4 for 11 years. Is it time for an upgrade? And when they're thinking about making that choice, do they stick with PlayStation if they're just the Call of Duty player every year, or do they say, well, Xbox has this Game Pass thing. I can save money on Call of Duty by subscribing and maybe check out some other games. Like, I really wonder how many players are having that internal debate.
I mean, I don't really think that it's something that's going to be like the conversation that you just kind of poised of like, okay, Call of Duty is coming to Game Pass. I would like to play other games. I think the people that are looking at the splash screen on the Call of Duty startup are there for Call of Duty, and 95% of them are going to click through to not even read it. Then the other half are going to be like, okay, cool. I'll try the new Call of Duty on day one and do a month of Game Pass. Like, I think it's going to be very much so how we talk about Ubisoft sometimes in the communities we both run in of, I'll give it a shot to play it on day one. If I like it, I'll keep subscribing or buy it. If not, then I'll dip. And it's all revenue for Microsoft, even if it is temporary. But yeah, I mean, it's just all about the brand recognition. Having Game Pass in the conversation, no matter how big of a part of that conversation it is more than Xbox had before. So I know it's going to bring a big bump to the subscriber count, but like how much of a bump is really the question right now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see for sure. As PlayStation said, 50% of our users still on last gen consoles. So I have no doubt Black Ops 6 is going to sell like gangbusters on PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, and then Xbox will have that Game Pass incentive if you're over there. So like it's a win-win for everyone here, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
All right, Sam, let's jump over to the main topic of discussion for today, our Xbox Showcase predictions. Obviously, the Xbox Showcase is June 9th, a little over a week away as the time of recording this. So I asked you to bring 3 predictions to the show. What you think is going to happen, what you want to happen, whether you keep it in the realm of possibility, that's up to you. I've predicted Banjo-Kazooie every year. And as I've written in the document here, my honorable mention, Banjo, because I have to say it every year. I know it's not happening. Get off my back.
Yeah, understandable. Yeah, I brought 3. Now I have some that are like, are we doing the obvious things that have already been reported, or are we skipping the things that we know are probably going to be there by like shadow of a doubt?
So why don't we talk about the things that we are pretty confident are going to be there before we get into our predictions? So
Okay.
just a little note to the audience if you're listening, like there is one game that is basically, well, there's Call of Duty, we know it's going to be there, but there's another new entry in a franchise that we're going to talk about right now. So if you don't want to know what game is going to be there, maybe just tune out. But here's your warning. All right. The new Doom game is clearly going to be like verified reports across the board from multiple outlets that has said Doom, the Dark Age, which was codename Year Zero. They're bringing Doom to like a medieval setting. I think they're going to slow it down, make it more intense, not as fast paced as Eternal. This is definitely being shown there. All reports say it's going to be a multi-platform title.
Yes. So that was one that I had on my list. I'm incredibly hyped about that. I think we talked about that a little bit last week. And then the other one also, again, spoilers. We'll wait, give you the respective 1, 2, 3. Gear 6 is probably also going to be in the showcase announcements as well. So those are the 2 that I had on my list of like things that I would be hyped about that I would have been predicting anyway, because it was about time. But with those out of the way, I can give you my first real prediction if you would like.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I also think Gear 6 is basically a lock for the show.
Yeah. Now beyond that, I think there's a lot of potential out there for anything to really happen. I think there might have been a couple of other things floating around out there, but my first one is that we get a release date for Fable. And
Ooh.
I think that the release date is going to be one of those, like, either a time frame of spring 2025 or a month of like March 2025. I feel like that feels like a reasonable estimate based on what we've seen over the years for Fable.
So do you think when do you see Fable actually hitting? Like, are those is that your prediction? Like, it's going to be an early year game, like March?
I think so.
Mm.
I'm not a legacy Fable fan. I've never finished a Fable game. I poked around in them for a couple of hours, but I feel like it's not a game you roll out during the holiday season. Like, I don't think that's going to be your big holiday game when you have games like Call of Duty and Doom in the roster, which Doom is typically a summer game. So that might be like a next summer game kind of thing. But remembering the Doom Eternal and Animal Crossing days of the old pandemic. But when you have a game like Call of Duty dropping in November and you want to put out a game like Fable, not that they would be competing audiences, but it just feels like you've got so much more to pack into the holiday season. A good spring release kind of hypes that up a little bit and gives it a little bit more, but that's just my take. So I feel like it's a spring game.
So I can see. Here's the thing. When I think about it, I feel like that's really early for Fable because I don't know how far along the get. Like, we know they've been working on it for years, right? Like Forza Horizon 5 came out
22?
2021. Was it 2022?
Let me check.
Feels
Keep
like it
going.
was longer than that. But okay, so they've been working on it for a few years at least. I am concerned that it might not be ready for a spring release, but then GTA 6 is the fall 2025 game.
Yeah,
Like,
across the board. It was
yeah, across
2021, by the way, for Forza.
2021. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's been at least 3 years they working on it, obviously more than that. But if you put anything up against GTA 6, you are sending it out to die. And I say this as someone that doesn't care about GTA 6. I don't care about Grand Theft Auto. I want Fable to succeed. Obviously, Xbox needs to space them out and like games will come out when they're ready to come out. But if you can avoid that holiday season and it's ready to go, then do it. But if you're putting Fable out on the holiday, I might rethink that, maybe hold it for the beginning of 2026.
Yeah, I mean, definitely not wrong there. I think that I would hope that it's further along than a 2026 game, even baking in like the release date stuff that's kind of, putting a damper on things and changing the strategy. But I'm going to stick with the early 2025. I completely agree, though. If you have anything coming out in the holiday season of 2026 or 2025 when this game drops, you need to move it, because if you
Mhm.
thought that Spider-Man 2 is going to cannibalize Alan Wake 2, Call of Duty is going to get cannibalized by Grand Theft Auto. Like, that is a statement I'm willing to make. Like, it is
I
going to
agree with you.
totally eat the overall public conversation, no doubt. So yeah, get out of that thing's way. Just let it land and then come back later for sure.
Activision is like, we've been the best selling game for so long, got like 11 out of the last 12 years or something, or I don't know if that's an actual statistic, you know what I'm saying though. And
Yeah.
then they're gonna say not next year though, like they're already chalking this one up, they're not beating GTA 6.
No, I mean, Grand Theft Auto 5 was what, the best selling game for like 8 years or something
It
crazy.
sold like
Like,
200 million copies or something.
it was an
I own
insane
it.
run.
I own it. I don't even like it. I don't know why I have this game. Like, how did I get it?
It's just crazy to think, not to derail the conversation, but to think that Grand Theft Auto 5 came out. I was playing it as a junior in high school.
Mhm.
In my friend, I had just gotten my license. Okay, I am on my third job out of college, engaged. I'm a whole adult now, and we still are waiting on this game. Like, it's crazy how long it's been.
Yeah, it came out. I was in college, but I was like not far along into college. So wow, GTA 5, huh?
Yeah,
That's
how
a
about
that's
that?
a whole nother world. Ghost of March. The new Doom should totally have some sort of Animal Crossing Easter egg. I
I
agree.
agree. Yeah,
I
would
agree
be
for
very
sure.
nice. But lay it on me. What is your first prediction of the show that's not one of the obvious ones that we've already seen online?
My first prediction: Everwild is re-revealed. We actually get to see some gameplay, but no release window. And I say this because I feel like, and maybe Captain, I don't know if Captain Logan's still in the chat. Maybe he can talk to me about Everwild, but I feel like Rare is kind of winding down on Sea of Thieves. Like, they can have a small dedicated team to keep making content for it, but it's time to get Everwild up and going. All right. Like there was some reboots apparently a few years ago. They didn't know what the game was. If this game is ever going to come out, especially this generation, if this was something that you want to come out as you announced it years ago, it's time to get it back into the limelight. Like we need to see this game again. And Captain Logan says, "Sea of Thieves is booming, winding, questioning the winding down." I saw so Logan. I only say that because to me it feels like okay, we're bringing it to PS5, which Xbox clearly is like okay, we want more revenue, we want more players to keep the engagement going, right? Which signals to me like maybe Xbox PC wasn't enough of the player base. Clearly they can still support it well enough, but like how big is Rare? Like can they have multiple teams going?
So, like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it almost feels like Sea of Thieves is out of the reconstruction era of like getting it going, and now they're in this like, okay, we built this awesome thing. Now we continue adding more content
They're in
to it.
the sustain period. Like we have a
Yeah,
successful product. We know how to keep Sea of Thieves going and go. Like we don't need to commit all of our resources to this. Let's work on that other project.
yeah. I think that when I think about Everwild, I think about the point at which Xbox is as a company right now, because I think I mentioned it on last week's show and we talked about it a little bit, but it's almost like they're in this like identity transformation phase of going from, we're doing a lot of little experimental indie stuff, or, we're supporting these smaller indie devs through Game Pass and we're doing these experimental games. But now it's almost like, I know that the narrative online has been like Satya and Amy have come in and they're like, hey, we like money. So what can you guys do to generate money? And then they just go out and try to do all these things that are like focused on the bottom line and building it up. And I feel like Everwild's one of those like 2017 era games that was in the cooker a little bit, where they're trying something new, cool gameplay mechanic, but then you think about Xbox now and like, as somebody who's on Xbox all the time, Call of Duty is getting into the mind. Diablo is getting into the mind, these big franchises. And so, how do they balance those things out? So, I hope that Everwild comes out and it hits the expectation for players and for Microsoft. Like, that's where my concerns are now, too.
Apparently, Everwild was revealed at 2019. So it's been 5 years already,
Yeah.
which doesn't give me a lot of confidence, especially reading the chat here from Logan, who basically tells me, Kevin, everything you're saying about Rare is wrong. And Logan would certainly know more about Rare these days than I would. So I will take that to heart. I still do feel like we need to see Everwild unless they're just going to can it. Like if it's canceled, maybe make that announcement, like let it silently just drift away. But like then that leads me to my other question of, well, if Everwild is canceled, what is Rare going to do that isn't Sea of Thieves? Because I really like, are they only going to be the Sea of Thieves studio? Is that their whole thing? Because to me, I feel like they have such talented developers over there. Like I want to see more games for them.
Yeah, I agree. It's a very interesting thing because Sea of Thieves really is kind of like one of their lightning in a bottle things where I never thought that it would do what it did. When Sea of Thieves came out, I never thought we'd be talking about it. What, we're going on like what, 8 years later, something crazy like
Something
that.
like that, yeah.
Yeah, so I get the continuing to put resources behind that and continue nurturing it and stuff. But I would love just to have some closure on what's going on with Everwild. I mean, that was one of those early, starting to talk about next gen kind of games. So hopefully we'll see it this year, but it's going to be a very, very different kind of showcase because now, Thanos got all the rings. And so what are you going to talk about at the showcase that's not a giant Goliath of a Bethesda game or an Activision game, because you've got
Mhm.
so much to discuss with those.
And I feel like they had a good balance last year between Xbox Game Studios and Bethesda. And now we got to throw Activision Blizzard in the mix. Like, are we going to see anything outside of Call of Duty from an Activision studio? I don't know.
Not yet. I mean, I think that I keep coming back to the don't break the money machine thing, and it's like the Game Pass fear as well of like, who you're really putting that on the subscription service and not wanting $70 from everybody, huh?
Mhm.
So stuff like that. I'm just wondering how much they're going to put into doing other things. Like, yeah, give me a Tony Hawk, but also you're not going to make a ton of money on Tony Hawk. How many people under the age of 18 are that familiar with who Tony Hawk really is in like the relevant way that we know him? So stuff like that. Also, shout out to 1H1D. The replaced game needs an update as well. We've been waiting on that one for a hot minute too.
Yep. I hear a lot of people talk about replaced. I want to say they said it was coming out in the second half of this year, but if we could narrow that down a little more, because that is one I think coming to Game Pass, big indie game that people are looking forward to. So,
Yeah.
all right. Now that my prediction has been, Kevin's an idiot. Sam, what's your second prediction?
I am going to say one that I did not have written down, and I'm
Oh,
probably going to look like an idiot after I say it as well.
join me.
Uh, Silk Song release date.
Okay.
Because of the Game Pass tie-in. Like it is a Game Pass game that has a pre-existing agreement with those websites or web pages or landing pages or whatever going up a
Mm-hmm.
couple of weeks ago. Seems like the things are starting to fall into place for that to be something that's actually present during the show. Now the question is shadow drop. I don't want to put my money on that because I think the game is too big of a deal to just shadow drop it randomly.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can do that with 33 Immortals. Like you can totally shadow drop that. And Towerborn, sure, go for it, whatever. You can't really do that with Silk Song, but I do think we get a release date for it.
I don't think that sounds stupid at all. I would actually bank on Silk Song getting a release date here. And I know we've probably said that for the last few years at this point, that Silk Song, it's got to be this one. But there are people that are like, oh, the Nintendo Indie Direct that happened a month or so ago. People thought it was going to be there. And I'm like, you don't understand that Silk Song is an indie game, but it's a level above most
Yeah.
indie games, right? If you put that in that kind of environment, it's going to dominate and no one's going to remember the other ones. When you put it in a showcase full of other AAA games, it's going to stand out, but so are all the other games.
Yeah, somehow Hollow Knight got on that same level of an Undertale, where anything Undertale related is dropped, and
Hmm.
immediately the entire internet's on fire. It's trending on all the social media platforms, and Silk Song has obtained that. I don't personally get it because I tried to play it a couple of months back and I fell off. Like it was right after Prince of Persia, and I had just done a lot of platforming, and I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, this isn't as fast or actiony, so I think I'm going to put it down for now. But yeah, I'm betting on a Silk Song release date, so I think that's apparently a good bet. But
Yeah.
give me number two for you. What's next on your list?
I'm just listen. I'm wanting to believe in Xbox Game Studios. Okay, Perfect Dark is shown off, and it gets dated for next year, to the surprise of everyone.
Interesting. To just a calendar date, is that what you're thinking?
Yes, just
Okay.
2025. Perfect Dark. I know. Here's the thing. Like we had those reports a few weeks ago where it was like Perfect Dark's in a lot of trouble for what I'm hearing, and then we had those conflicting reports like, no, it's actually coming along pretty well. And now I'm like, I don't know who to believe between these
Yeah.
two insiders, if you will, fighting it out. And I don't remember who said what, but I want to believe that the initiative, Crystal Dynamics, aren't completely just twiddling their thumbs over there, and that this game has somehow made progress, is somehow eventually going to come out, and hopefully come out soon. So I'm remaining positive. I hope we see Perfect Dark, and I hope it gets dated for next year.
Yeah, I agree. That's also one that I had on my list that I replaced last minute with Hollow Knight. That was one that I was going to bring up. I actually had verbatim another showing of Perfect Dark that's the equivalent of the Fable trailer from last year.
Oh
So
no.
it's like, not really showing you anything, but also like this is running in engine. You can expect to see these hair physics, like that kind of thing. So I would expect to see it as well, especially with how much talk there has been around it. And it's one of those games where I'm always wondering if it is a thing that's driven by nostalgia and really has any kind of potential. Or I think about the Tomb Raider reboots of like when Tomb Raider got a reboot on the
Hmm.
PlayStation 4, I think is when that generation had. never would have thought that we would get 3 games that are all super solid, not just Uncharted copies. Like they're really, really good Tomb Raider games. And so maybe Perfect Dark could do that. I definitely would not want to hold it back from becoming what it could be. But again, one I'm optimistic on, but cautious of overall.
Yeah, that they really do need to nail the Perfect Dark reboot because I tried playing the Xbox 360 one and that game has not aged well. This like,
Zero.
yeah, not a
Yeah.
very good game,
Yeah.
which is a shame. So like, I can completely understand why they want to kind of just like let's redo the whole thing. Let's redefine what Perfect Dark is. And you bring up the Tomb Raider reboots. I watch Grey's Anatomy with my girlfriends sometimes, and one of the actresses is the girl that is Laura Croft.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So every time I'm
Interesting.
watching, I was like, that's Laura Croft from the
That's crazy.
Tomb Raider reboots. So
How about
she's
that?
just there. Yeah. All right. Sam, your
Oh, was
next
it
one.
me next? Oh, sorry. My bad.
Yeah, we were just talking Perfect Dark. I just went Perfect Dark, and now I'm sitting here like, basically my predictions so far are like all the games that we think are dead. Please, like, show some signs of life.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is for me. For my third one, and I could have a fourth one tucked in if you want it, but we'll talk about that later. I believe that we are going to be getting some kind of controller refresh. Now, the question is it the base controller that we saw from the FTC leaks last year with better haptic feedback and like the
Adaptive triggers.
the adaptive trigger stuff, or is it an Elite Series 3 that finally fixes like stick drift and stuff? Because seems like it's about time to do more than the Elite Series 2. It's been like a very long time since we've gotten a refresh. Is it necessary? Up for debate. Don't really know, but it could be something that's on the table. But some kind of controller refresh, I can kind of feel could be coming.
I can see it if they have a little section where they're like, we also have a digital Series X come or some sort of like a refresh, not a mid-gen upgrade like the PS5 Pro, because I don't think Xbox is doing that. I don't think there's any need for that when they can't even sell what they already have on the market.
Yeah.
So like just making it like, oh, $100 less or whatever, no disk drive, digital console, like try and get people more into the ecosystem at a cheaper option if they don't want the Series S, because some people are put off by the power of that console. I can see it like it'd be a more enticing announcement if they're like, and comes with a new controller that has all the sweet DualSense features.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think, to also add to that, that there could be a permanent price drop for the Series X, maybe $50 cheaper? Would that
They
be something that
should.
Microsoft would have on the table?
They should do it. They really should. It's 500 right now, right? They
Yeah,
they never they
499.
never yeah, they never raised it in the US, unlike PlayStation. I remember that. But I think they raised it in other countries if I remember
They did.
correctly.
They
Yeah.
did.
It'd be a good idea, I think, to drop, especially as we like it's not as expensive to make those consoles now as it was in 2020, right? Like technology is
Yeah.
moved on. If you can drop the Series S even to like I want to say 200, that might be pushing it, but like if you can give 200, 400, I think that is a really good value proposition, especially if you start saying they're going to start coming with this new controller.
Yeah, I think that even the controller potential aside, saying, hey, Series X now starts at $400, $399 to get the 3 in there.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Call of Duty is coming to Game Pass, and next year, eventually, the PS4 and the Xbox One will not be supported. So, hey, do you want the $450 console? I think is what the disc PS5 is, if I remember correctly. Could be wrong on that. But regardless, you can get the PS5 that you got to pay for the game, or you can get the $400 Series X that technically is the same power as a PS5, and you get Game Pass that bundles in 3 months for free. So go out, buy the console, have fun.
It's amazing to me that we don't have 3-month Game Pass bundles in every console. Like, why is this not a thing? Why are you not pushing this or even a month? Like, give people these trials. Come on.
Yeah, I agree. Get people in the door and they'll be able to see the value of it if they're into the jumping around to different games kind of lifestyle. It's not for everybody.
Chat is going at me because apparently I pronounced Lara Croft wrong.
Lara. You got to say Lara Croft.
Lara Croft, yeah. Okay. All right.
Her house is in Power Wash Simulator.
Is it really?
Yeah, you can do the Croft Mansion. Sorry, I've been on 2 hours of game discussions, and now I'm just thinking about Power Wash Simulator.
Yeah. My third one is a little less specific, but Xbox will announce a new partnership with a Japanese developer with their games coming to Xbox and Game Pass. So what I mean by this is they're going to work kind of what they did with Atlas a few years ago. This
Mm.
is a Japanese developer whose games currently are not on the system. They're going to say, "Hey, we have a new exciting partnership to announce with this Japanese developer. Their games are coming to the console and they're coming into Game Pass." I don't know who that's going to be, but I feel like it's going to happen.
Interesting. Yeah, I could easily see something like that happening. I mean, you mentioned Atlas. I kind of on the PC side also what they did with Valorant and League of Legends. The what's the name of the people that make League of Legends?
Riot.
Riot, yeah, with the Riot Games partnership, where they're like, hey, if you have Game Pass, you get everything they have to offer for free. Doing something like that, deepening those relationships, I could easily see something like that being on the showcase floor or during the showcase. But yeah, potentially. I know Silken is talking about Vanillaware on Xbox in the chat as well.
Well, I know Unicorn Overlord is from Vanillaware, and that's on Xbox. I don't think their other game. Well, no, is 13 Sentinels on Xbox? I don't know about that. You know,
Is that Aegis Rim?
yes,
Yeah, I think that is
yes.
on Xbox. I
I
feel like
wanted to say it
was it in Game
was.
Pass?
I wanted to say it was on Xbox, but I can't. Green Sentinels, Aegis Rim, Xbox. I don't think it's on Xbox. Actually,
Huh.
look at that. It's not. Maybe.
It'll be really interesting though if they do that, because I feel like, again, it's just like, who are you at this point as Xbox? Like, what do you want to be known as? Do you want to be the Call of Duty machine again? Because, by the way, I love their trailer they put out for the Black Ops 6 stuff, where it's like, you play it on Xbox. Like, it's got the thing, the dude with the GameStop voice again.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like you could do that, like lean into the hype around like 2013 era Call of Duty marketing. Do you want to be a box that's good for JRPGs? Do you want to be the Halo machine? Like the Forza, the identity is just kind of getting muddied a little bit. So I feel like it's hard to cater to a specific group when you're trying to please everybody. And it's just so hard to kind of hone in on that. I'm not jealous of their marketing team.
Yeah, and also I think of it like they just closed their Japanese studio.
They
I
did.
think having some sort of not reaction, but some sort of announcement to appease the Japanese fans of Japanese games would be beneficial from a PR standpoint.
Yeah. It's just hard because, like, do you do what people want and are known, they know you for, or do you want to try and continue pushing that diversification and getting into those regions and getting into those communities? It's a hard question to answer, because you can do something really, really well, or you can do a whole bunch of things kind of okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a hard in between to find how you can really kind of land on your feet across the board.
Completely fair. You said you had a fourth one. If you want to go over that.
I do. And I think this feels like a safe bet for me. I'm feeling
Okay.
optimistic about it. Star Wars Outlaws last year at the showcase. Ubisoft partnership, because somebody had to do child support for the cloud gaming rights for Activision. So I feel like Splinter Cell remake at this showcase could be a move that they make, because Ubisoft needs it on a big stage, and they did Outlaws last year, which is a Star Wars property. That's a big deal. I feel like it's not that far-fetched.
My only trepidation with that is they have Ubisoft Forward the next day, but it also could be I think they did that with Outlaws last year, where they say tune into the
Yeah.
Ubisoft Forward to see
Yeah.
more.
Because you are going to have way more eyes on the Xbox showcase, especially with Call of Duty this year,
Yeah.
than Ubisoft would ever have with showing off whatever's next for any of the Crew Motorfest, or what's that, Riders Republic. Like, your season 28 of Riders Republic isn't going to be bringing in the eyeballs. Like, you've got to have the big Xbox audience there. So I think that could be a really good opportunity to show that off.
I would love that as someone that's been waiting for Splinter Cell
Yeah.
for ages. So I'm not confident about it, but I'm here for it.
Yeah, I hope so. But that's what I had. Those are my optimistic predictions.
All right. Well, I asked some members of the community to write in. Ghostly March asked, "Do you think we get actual Fable gameplay?" Which I know your first prediction, you think we do get actual Fable gameplay.
I think so. I think I could see a 5-minute demo of this, like walking through like a little, like half of a mission or half of a quest or something like that. I think if last year was in engine real-time gameplay like running on an Xbox Series X, then this is the year that you got to show me, okay, this is what you're actually doing in this game. And it's time to show that off for sure.
I also think we get actual Fable gameplay. I think they got to show more. Just because the game's going to come out soon, and
Yeah.
unless they're going to hold it until the developer direct in January, like that seems. It seems to me like their marketing would want to show it off here, then do a deep dive, probably developer direct January for a release later that year. So
Yeah, I could see that.
Sam Heaney writes in the most non-toxic form possible, whether part of the showcase itself or following shortly thereafter in a blog post, what's your over-under on the number of titles confirmed multi-platform? I'll set the start at over under 3, but feel free to explore this.
Really interesting question. I'm assuming we're talking about what's coming to PlayStation and Nintendo.
Yeah, which I would assume the question also means for Xbox Studios game, like Bethesda,
Yeah.
Activision, Xbox Game Studios, because there's going to be like if a Ubisoft game, obviously that's coming to everything, right? If there's a Capcom game, obviously that's coming to everything.
Yeah, I would say that it's so hard because I don't know the total number. I can't estimate the total number of like Xbox Game Studios games. But if we're talking about things that are shown off at the show, let's just say that there are 20 games shown off during the showcase. There are probably going to be more, but just for the sake of this
Yeah.
conversation, like 20 games. I would say that probably 8 of them are going to be on PlayStation. And that's like including multi-platform things and
Okay.
whatnot. But some of them might be timed exclusives as well. Like maybe Xbox gets something first and then 6 months later it comes to PlayStation, whatever that might be. But I would say if you're talking Star Wars Outlaws, if you're talking Splinter Cell, if you're talking, let's say Hades 2 is there, like those kind of things are definitely Xbox showcase potential.
Hmm.
But they're obviously going to be multi-platform. Doom has been discussed to be multi-platform as well. So kind of a hard question to dial in on. But what do you think? Like using that logic of things shown off at the show overall, how many things do you think are going to be multi-plat?
Well, we know Doom is going to be. We know Call of Duty is going to be. I
Are you sure about that?
imagine. Yeah, I'm pretty
I'm just kidding.
confident.
I don't
Yeah,
want to bring that up. No, I'm
pretty
good.
confident about that. Yeah. So you said over under 3. I think it's gonna be more than 3. Whether that's immediately announced or it's like they come in a year or like if Starfield Shattered Space gets shown off, like there's a lot of indication that like Starfield might go to PS5, so like that would probably count, right? Like you're
Yeah.
already at 3, so I think you're over under. I think it's above 3, but if you're counting everything, like as you said 20. Usually I'd say it's like 25 to 30 games probably at the show. So I'd say a good, I don't know, third of them will probably be multi-platform.
Yeah, I feel like a third is kind of where I landed to with the general estimates. The real question is, how many games that are multi-platform are we taking exclusive? Because let me tell you, Diablo 4 PS servers going offline tomorrow. Done. You guys are logging out permanently. Get a PC or an Xbox. That's what's happening right now. Vessel of
Dude,
Hatred, you wish. Get on Xbox.
Vessel of Hatred. Oh, you're gonna be hating us after this. Let me tell
Exactly.
you.
Yes. Vessel of Hatred on the other box. That's what it's called. We're yeah. I'm just kidding, of course, but yeah, I'd say about a third.
Final write-in for the show. Silkenet says, "Here are my predictions. We get a Gears collection, Fable
Mm-mm.
gameplay, Avowed and Indiana Jones release dates, Towerborn Shadow dropped or is released close to the showcase. We get a new Doom, and last but not least, my biggest hope that will certainly be crushed, Silk Song release date."
I feel like the Silksong release date's the one that's probably more confident than the Gears collection for me. I feel like
I
that's
have no faith in this Gears collection exists.
I mean, I feel like it makes sense to have it's just in a weird spot because they had the like remake or remaster on the Xbox One, and then 2 and 3 this becomes the question of like your backwards compatibility is so good. Do
Hmm.
you need to remaster these games? It's like the Red Dead situation where like whenever it launched, it ran at 30 FPS on PlayStation and 60 FPS or the resolution was higher or something. It was better on Xbox at launch just through backwards compatibility. Now since then, there's been a 60 FPS patch. Come on, Rockstar. But yeah, it's a question of like how good can the games possibly be, and how much do you want to hype the game up before Gear 6 comes out? Really good estimates though, or predictions here.
Yeah.
I'm shocked Avowed doesn't have a release date yet. Like, what are we doing with that?
It has to get one at the showcase or it's getting delayed. I'm
Yeah,
fairly confident with that.
I mean, for me, that just has all of the DNA of like an August game. I can't tell you why. It's just like an early fall, like before everything else comes out. Let's get About out there and kind of get the juices flowing with that. But that might be a good turnaround time. Honestly, I don't think Fallout was too far off of that. Of like announced in June, launching in November. So announced in June, launching in like let's just say September, October. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking this. I don't know.
I think Towerborn Shadow Drop is maybe a good call. That or 33 Immortals, I can definitely see like as a shadow drop or like really close to the showcase. My whole thing with the Gears collection is like it's just I've heard about it for so long now and it just hasn't happened. And whether they've been saving it to hype up Gears of 6, like oh, play them all before the new one comes out in a year or two or wherever Gears 6 is coming out. Um my thing, as you said, the Ultimate Edition exists, but 2 and 3, and I don't know if 4 is, but 2 and 3 definitely aren't. They're not on PC. So getting
Oh yeah.
those to the PC audience, I think, would be their big incentive.
Yeah, are they really not on PC? That's
As
crazy.
far as I know, Gears 2 and Gears 3 are not on PC.
Wow. That is shocking. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense to bring those to PC. I think that makes a incredible amount of sense actually. So maybe that is the move. Would love to see the more Gears though. I think that getting back to that and figuring out what next generation Doom looks like is a really big priority for me. As a fan, like keep that alive in a way that like I don't want to say it doesn't go down the Halo route, but it's hard for Halo to kind of fight back that relevance that it had back in the Xbox 360 era. And I feel like Gears is kind of going down that road. Not that Halo's irrelevant or anything by any means, but it's not at that same level that it was in the same way that Halo's not at Halo 3 levels of peak. So figuring out how to keep that relevant is important.
It's weird because I feel like Gears is actually like maintained its quality for the
Yeah.
most part. Like I really like 4 or 5. I'm not like a super big fan of, but were reviewed really well compared to like compared to Halo, where like I don't like 4. 5, obviously nobody likes, even though I think 5 is maybe a little overhated at this point.
I
And
have
then
a statue back there. It's out
so
of frame, but it's back there.
like I feel Gears has maintained its quality level, but the cultural relevance has declined.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like even Halo Infinite, it's a good game. People love Halo Infinite, but it's not something that kids are sitting around the lunchroom table in high school or you hanging out in college and you're like, "Ah, what are you playing tonight?" Halo Infinite. No, you're playing Warzone, you're playing Apex, you're playing like all these other big, well-known FPS games. You're
Mhm.
getting stomped by monster trucks in Fortnite, whatever the kids are doing these days.
You're
Like Halo's
telling
just not there.
they're not setting up mongooses with hammers and driving them on thin strips in the
Exactly.
sky. Oh
No
man, they're missing
culture
out.
anymore.
They're
No
missing out.
culture.
They're
What's going
missing out.
on, man?
All right. Well, those are our predictions for the Xbox showcase. We will obviously, like I said, live react and let you know the episode after what we got right, what we got wrong. But Sam, you want to let everyone know where they can find you until then.
Oh yeah, you can find me on Threads at JamPackSam, TikTok, Instagram, sometimes X. I might check in there occasionally. You never know. But yeah, I'm out there making stuff online, having a good time doing it. So yeah, appreciate you and always being here every Thursday, hanging out, talking Xbox.
Yes, yes. And speaking of X, you want to know what I got to say? The amount of people sharing the entirety of the state of play today. What is wrong with everyone?
Oh man, X is a wild, wild west of internet fandom right there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you can find me over there and Threads at the Muffin Mon 107I 0 7A. Follow us at Save Game Media to stay up to date with all of our latest content. Until next time, we will see you